She was foremost. Foremost in what? Isn't that a great picture? Pull up some VR website. Okay, so in the Anguttara Nikaya, in the Book of Ones, the Buddha listed the who's who of his monks and his nuns and his laymen and his lay women. And Mahayana scriptures have more of them. I don't know what happened with that. But anyway, there's a whole lot of them, more for the women in the other scripture. This is the foremost of my nun disciples, bhikkhuni disciples, monastics, among those who wear robes made of rough materials. That is to say, Kisa, Gotami. Now, the deal is that in a past life, way, way back under the Buddha Paramuttara, she heard him say that somebody was the foremost bhikkhuni of wearing rough robes. He praised her, and this gave the future Kisa Gotami tremendous joy. And she did service for the Buddha and made her aspiration to do that. And he approved that, yeah, that's going to happen, and said when it's going to happen and so on. And so she went to heaven, and then she had another human life. And then the next life that's recorded is that one that she had that difficult situation with the baby and all. So here in, I don't remember what I've got here. It might be, I don't know if it's the commentary of the Abhidhamma. I'm wearing robes which are rough. My sangati being made of a shroud picked up and brought from a cemetery along the road. The victor, pleased by my virtue, the guide among the multitudes, placed me in the foremost place of those who wear robes which are rough. Now, this wording about the robes that are rough, this Lukachivara Dharane, that normally should mean like shabby, badly clad, but this is meaning something else. This is the renunciate practice. It's kind of super renunciate practice of not accepting well-made robes from people, but to, get your scraps together and create your own robe. Going back up to the commentary to the Anguttara Nikaya says, this note here in Bhante Ananda Jyoti's work, awesome Bhante Ananda Jyoti, hello, Venerable Sir, if you see this. The Tika, which I think is the sub-commentary, describes the roughness, meaning rough in cloth, rough in thread, and rough in dye. This may be different from Pansakula cloth, as that first of the 13 Dhutangas, but I couldn't quite wrap my mind around exactly how the two practices differ. Anyway, she was very much wearing of robes that you would be she was satisfied with, even if the cloth wasn't what everybody really wanted, and the threading wasn't what everybody wanted, and the dyeing. Maybe, some kinds of material would take dye better, and so you end up with sort of multicolored mess if you have materials that don't dye well. As I know one of the people here listening has mentioned online recently about how that can happen. I'm going to give a quote here from an email correspondence I had with someone who's in this audience right now. And I'm going to read this. I'm so sorry I'm running over, folks. Please forgive me. Those of you who knew me knew that would happen, but I was in denial. We don't toss an old robe into the garbage, but find other purposes, such as making patches out of it for use on other clothing. Old robes can also be used as sheets, curtains, covers over furniture, and more. I've sewn an old upper robe to a woolen blanket to create a warm winter cloak, which I wrapped up in while helping with a series of bhikkhuni ordinations staged outdoors in New Jersey last year. We Buddhist monastics ideally wear the same clothing for many years, patching any worn or torn places and not tossing them aside too quickly for something better, even when new clothing is available. This is part of our life of simplicity and renunciation. The dissatisfied mind, always wanting, is the source of all our trouble and pain in life. So why feed its desires? Better to just make do, add a patch, let it be. This doesn't make sense to lay people, to some lay people, but other monks tend to deeply understand and respect this approach. So here's a patched cloth of mine. I'm wearing it at the moment, but I took photos in sunlight so that you could really see. The patches have replaced the cloth in great part. You could see the frayed cloth there is kind of see through that spot, but it's almost all patches. In fact, if you were to turn it inside out, you would see old patches inside that wore out and had to be removed. So you could see the edges of old patches. It's like patches holding patches together rather than the original. So this is a blouse of mine. And you can see the collar there is one long patch. That's the underarm area, and below patches. A new nun once asked for a patched robe of mine. I'm like, why? And she said, it's more authentic. And I said, earn your own patches. She was brand new. She had not even one vasa. I said, earn your own patches. And in that moment, something shifted in my mind, because before that, I was ashamed of my old patched robe, my patched robes and my patched shirt. And then I realized that it actually was kind of a badge of honor. I never thought of that. And I have indeed earned some patches along the way. So again, returning to that email correspondence, this heavily patched shirt, has the one in the photos, has been my good winter shirt for many years. Though long thinned by wear, until recently it was my only shirt large enough to wear a sweater beneath it. After last year's ordinations in New Jersey, the preceptor gave advice to the new bhikkhunis that included pointing to my patched shirt, the same one, and exhorting them to embrace this renunciation. So close up. You can see the patch underneath there is held on with extra stitching done very badly. So this gets me to something else I wanted to bring into this talk. I said it had 3 parts, but the part about the robes has 2 sections to it. One is Kisa Gotami's wonderful example, and 2 is a project that involves using old robes. And so I received an email one day from a lady saying she's Jasmine Graff, and an artist, and she's studying Buddhist manuscripts and so forth. And she wants to honor the importance of Buddhism in her current work. She's exploring the impact of print, paper, and bookmaking as forms of social, cultural, and symbolic capital. And so anyway, you can read this more slowly at your leisure if the video comes out later. But she is interested in producing papers by hand using natural plant fibers, and especially trying to use Buddhist robes, old robes, and turning them into paper and turning that paper into art or covers for books. So my intention is to engage with local and monastic communities using art as a catalyst to connect differing, diverse populations. So when she makes them into handmade books and going to put them into libraries, the material is the metaphysical vehicle, and the books as repositories of knowledge. And you know, that's really great, metaphysical vehicle. When people bow to a monk, I was taught they're not bowing to the person, they're that individual personality, they're bowing to the Sangha represented by the robes. And these robes are kind of a vehicle or a representation, they're a symbol, and they are a vehicle for awakening, because when we go into these robes, we get to enter into some ideal conditions that the Buddha put together for awakening. And so, so when they're bowing to me, they're not bowing to me, they're bowing to this robe. And so this vehicle, the robe, it could be seen as a vehicle. And so the books are a repository of knowledge, maybe Dhamma, and then you have the robe. And I am currently working on a book project that I hope to have robe bound covers in the library, in a few libraries, and then, you know, maybe digitally reproduce or whatever, or I don't know, maybe some publisher will be interested in a book of, it's a Q&A. So she was asking for worn Buddhist robes, and there's her email, and there is her website. And here I sent her some robes, and that was not easy to do. I had to give up something because all my robes were either in use or they're brand new ones in the closet that I didn't really claim, or had them in use, and kind of, anyway, I found some that realized that some really needed to go. They were too thin. So there on the right is where she is got them drying, and then there's the result on the left. And that's the end of the slideshow. And I would like to invite Ms. Jazz to unmute and put on her camera, if you can, or you weren't expecting that maybe, but to unmute. I used to be able to spotlight someone, and I don't see how to now. Let's see, they changed something.
I'm not able to put my video on, but I could unmute.
Yes, go ahead. And while you're talking, I'm going to be in the background doing something unexpected. And actually, I have to tell a little bit about it before I do that. When my dear friend Ayya was visiting me recently, I told her, you should give some robes to Ms. Jasmine. You know, she needs them for these projects. She'll be so grateful. And she was like, well, I used to have a whole lot, and I left them behind at such and such place. But she said, well, you should give up that shirt of yours that's so old and patched. I'm like, my shirt? No. And she said, but isn't that just attachment? So I decided at that moment, I will give up this shirt for Ms. Jasmine's project, the one that I just showed you all the photos of, the one I'm wearing right now. But I couldn't figure out how to make myself do it. So I'm going to take off this shirt in the background while Ms. Jasmine talks to you a little bit about her project. And I'm going to put it in the envelope that I'm going to send her. I could not figure out how I'm going to manage to part with this shirt. And this is how I'm doing it. So Ms. Jasmine, the floor is yours.
Hi, okay, thank you. Yeah, I tried to start a video, but I think the function is kind of disabled. I'm not sure how to change that setting. I wanted to just toss a link here in the chat. And this is has some images of the work that I've been doing with various Buddhist monk robes. So the project started in about 2018. I guess my work dealing with paper, print, and bookmaking was about looking at interconnection, and sort of I started at that with the first relational bond that I knew of in this world, and that was with my mother. So I started looking at my maternal lineage. My mom's from Thailand, and Buddhism is extremely influential in Thai culture. And so I reached out to some students on campus. There were very few Thai students in Iowa, where I was at the time at graduate school. And immediately I asked them, I said, is it disrespectful for me to basically destroy a robe and turn it into paper, into my project? And one of the young men said, I was a monk, and I think this would be acceptable. Let me call my mother. So he's on the phone with his mother, and she talks to the elders at her temple right outside of Bangkok, and they say, yes, we will give you some robes and support the project. And the next thing I knew, over winter break, I had new friends bringing me some of these robes on the plane. So I put the robes through, oh, this is so wonderful to see you packing this up. And I put the robes through a commercial sort of beater, which pulps it. It breaks it down, it breaks down the fibers, and it's a pretty lengthy process. And then it needs a cellulose fiber structure to bond it together to form sheets. And I've studied different types of sheet forming, Eastern and Western styles of paper making. And I'm also going to attach a PDF here if I'm able to do that. So you can see some images as well. You can see some of the materials that are incorporated in my paper installations and art projects. Here. Okay, so this is a 2-page PDF. And on the PDF, there's a little QR code. And that QR code, if you take a picture with your phone, that'll take you to the website that I linked above, and you can explore my website, which has other iterations of books that I'm exploring. And part of this is looking at essentially how we share knowledge. How do we share what we know? Not this sort of knowledge as like this supreme thing that is almost untangible and we're always kind of searching for, but this idea of, how does one share what they know? And it's through these incredible technologies of paper, print, and bookmaking that globally we've been able to share knowledge. And we've evolved even now to look at a web page as sort of this new iteration of a page of a book. And it all comes back to, or it all originates from these very natural materials and these traditions, which are now sort of becoming endangered. So that's a little bit about my project. And I have to say that, when I reached out to Ayya Sudhamma Bhikkhuni about asking for a robe, that was then when I realized what I was asking for, because the relationship with the robe, obviously I would imagine it's very different for every different Buddhist monastic, that type of relationship. But when you hold on to a robe for 10 years or more, and it's gone through this journey, I think that it has a very, it sort of embodies a lot of that experience. Perhaps it holds remnants of what that journey entailed. And when you showed all the different patches of the robe, it made me think of a mapping, a sort of mapping through the stitch. The stitch is both puncture and connection, right? Of how these different pieces come together and clothe us and keep us warm and cover us and are like a second skin, and also is very intimate, but also a very powerful symbol of something that not everyone has access to, perhaps, but a very powerful symbol that I'm interested in learning more about, how contemporary society views it, and how it exists in different countries, and the power that robe carries too.
Wonderful. Perfect. Thank you. And I heartily encourage my bhikkhuni friends and other nun friends and my bhikkhu brothers and other monk brothers to consider sending some of these robes to Ms. Jasmine. I gotta admit, the hardest thing about giving up that shirt is that I can't just take it apart and get those patches back. Every patch is handmade. That's a lot of work there. Could use them for other stuff. But yeah, if you could maybe just renounce just some little bit, just some little thing, then that would mean a lot to her. And especially if you, my fellow renunciates, could send a little bit of information about it so that she has some kind of way to identify it and help other people understand the meaning of it to you, then that would be all the more helpful. Okay, so we don't have really time for Q&A, but I'm going to go ahead and open it up. And if anyone needs to go now, it's just about 4 o'clock. This would be a time to go without looking, well, it wouldn't be bad anyway, but without feeling uncomfortable. Please feel welcome to go if you need to go now. If anyone had any sort of kind of sadhu, sort of well done sort of response to the teaching, this would be the time to say it.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Also, if is this a time to make an announcement, Ayya?
I think it's fine if you do, Ms.
Yeah.
Laura. Thank you.
This Vihara runs off of donations, so if you could go to the charlottebuddhistvihara.org website, there's a donation ball. You can hit that and continue to support the Vihara so Ayya can live in the home in the Vihara.
Thank you so much for thinking of that, Laura. Appreciate it. Okay, so you can ask me any questions, but I think right now, kind of a little more urgently, is to ask Ms. Jasmine any questions, because you can always find me. Are there any questions for Ms. Jasmine? Yes, and she just put her email into the chat. Adriana has put Charlotte Buddhist Vihara the donations thing in the link in the chat. Any questions for Ms. Jasmine? Okay.
Thank you for coming.
I didn't even think to thank you. Thank you, Ms. Jasmine. Thank you for your project.
Thank you for having me.
So any questions for me? Last chance. Any thoughts, any feedback?
I had some, I guess, inquiry about samsara being a closed system, and I guess I haven't developed this question very well, but I guess is the connotation somewhat like the way we think of water as being sort of, I don't know, what is meant by a closed system? Is that kind of a trap, or is that balanced in itself, or I don't know how to think about that.
Thank you for that question. It's a very good question to ask. And, it depends on your perspective, because some people are terribly afraid of non-existence. And the idea that samsara is not going to let you go is quite comforting to some people. As long as you want to be here, you'll be here. Even if you just have a little tiny whisker of wishing to be here, you'll be here. If just the slightest wish to be here, you're going to be here. You're not leaving the system as long as you want to be at it. Not happening. So that for some people is comforting. And particularly when somebody's had a loss of someone they loved, the idea that they may meet again, because nobody's really going anywhere. We're all going to still be in the same system basically forever. That's a pleasant idea for some people. The time frames that we're talking about of existence, life after life after life, are so enormous that oh, wow. Someone just commented in the chat that it's Mother's Day already, and I didn't even think about it being Mother's Day tomorrow, or in their time zone, and going to be Mother's Day soon tomorrow here. What a wonderful connection. Yes, just perfect. Anyway, oh, what was I saying? Oh yeah, samsara. As a matter of fact, I was just about to say that everybody's been our mother. There's not a being, they say, there's not a being that you can ever come across that's never been your mother, because we've been interacting with each other for so long. And the Buddha said that for the purpose of kind of giving us urgency, like, this isn't good. This is terrible. Don't you want to finish this? Isn't this enough? Haven't you had enough? But other people have picked it up and are using it for purposes of sympathy, compassion, love for each other. Hey, that being you don't like right now, that being's been your mother. That being that you want to think is too small to value, that being's been your mother. They've done everything for you. At some time in this long, long series of worlds, they've done everything for you. So how can you not be cherishing every being, large or small? It's a closed system in the sense that, you know, a metaphor, I don't know if I heard it or came up with it, but if you had a bonfire, when does it cease? When will a bonfire stop? Well, a bonfire is going to keep going as long as you keep putting fuel on it. So as long as you're chopping up logs and throwing them on the bonfire, that bonfire, you know, in theory, could go on forever. If you stop putting fuel on the bonfire, it would die down and out. As long as we have any craving, clinging, longing, desire of the smallest amount, that continues to fuel samsara for us. When that's gone, then we live out the remainder of this body, like the bonfire would take time to die down. We live out the remainder of this body, but it's not going to keep going. There's no fuel for it. It's done. And the fact of having craving is a state of suffering. Even if it's subtle, it's still that subtle suffering. And so overall, the Buddhist idea, the original Buddhist idea of samsara is just finish. Don't keep creating pain. Why do you want to be in pain? And you could have peace, ultimate peace, beautiful peace, with your mind vibrant and heart so alive. Why? Why would you want to keep having pain? And then at the end of this body, the aggregates won't come back together again and keep dragging this whole thing out life after life anymore, because the fuel is gone, or there's no stickiness to pull together the aggregates again. So it's just all over. And that particular little bit of suffering is that particular drive, that experience of being is finished. Doesn't have to suffer anymore. So that kind of would seem to equate existence, being, with suffering. And that's true. Except that, you know, there's also a lot of satisfaction and pleasure and joy and delight that cover it over most of the time, or a lot of the time, or some of the time. If you're in hell, it's not covering it over. If you're in heaven, it's covering it over. We're humans, we're shifting back and forth into suffering and gross suffering, and not as much gross suffering, but the underlying suffering of I want to be is still there. So yeah, I think when understood correctly, then the natural response is, why would I want to continue that? But as long as you want to continue that, don't worry, it's going to be here for you. There's something in the chat. Yes, so yes, of course, happy Mother's Day. Who was it that said that? Yes, happy Mother's Day, everyone. And happy Mother's Day to all mother beings. I hope you all be inspired to treat other beings with incredible grace and gentleness, given what they've done for you, and given all the suffering they've had on your account. Anything else, or shall we close?
I just wanted to say sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. That was really incredible. The story of Kisa Gotami, I mean, it's really difficult, but also so beautiful. The way you described her really coming to terms with her own suffering and using that as a form to find peace for herself and those around her. I just feel really deeply moved by it. And I really liked how you, in the middle, brought it home to us, you know, like we might not be dealing with such immense loss, but whatever we're dealing with now, that too can be used. It's the conditions we have. So I feel really empowered, and wow, just to like, it's so incredible. Like we have all these incredible men and women who came before us, who really worked hard and who overcame so much. It just feels like, I don't know, it just feels like such a beautiful space to be in. Like the Sangha, you know, it goes back so far. So yeah, this was really uplifting and inspiring, and I really needed it. Thank you, Ayya, as always. Appreciate it.
Wonderful, Adriana. Much appreciated. Okay, so this should eventually get uploaded onto YouTube with the other Therigatha other Therigatha videos. The daily release videos will of course continue tomorrow morning. There'll be one at 4 a.m. Eastern time of an interview with me regarding the Therigatha collection as a whole. And yeah, if you want to see a nice collection of the pre-recorded videos being released, go on YouTube to Dominet. And if you want to see the broader collection, either go to therigathafestival.net, I think it is, and look at, go to the part of the website of events, and that will give you that, or go to Therigatha Festival YouTube channel. Oh, and if you go to Dominet, you have to hit the right playlist. So you go to Dominet, go to playlist, and then go to Finding Sanctuary under that, and it's got them listed very neatly. Okay, so, oh yes, link there for the Therigatha Festival. Very good. All right, so good morning to some of you on one part of the world, and good afternoon or evening to others. And again, thank you, folks who were here in person. It meant a lot to me. Thank you. Special